today also we got a special opportunity to be able to hear our beloved brother testimony from our beloved brother Kyle Toffey, and he, as we know, he recently moved here from Korea, and as far as I hear, he joined church in 1975, and after that he joined IWC and went to worked in Japan and Korea. And after he received blessing, he'd been working in Korea for 10 years. And during the time, he started English service and supported Hyunjunim a lot and closely working with him. And we've seen, actually, I've seen that and sometimes he gave some as well in Korea, and I saw it online. So today we're going to hear his testimony. So thank you very much. Please come.
Do I need this?
Yes.
Do I? Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Actually, I joined in 1974, and it was right over here in Berkeley. But 1975, I went to Korea and Japan, and so that was a really wonderful experience. Actually, out of my first year and a half in the church, I spent more time in Japan than any place else, so kind of my spiritual homeland as well. But yeah, I for about 7-8 years, I had a English congregation, pretty much the same way you have a Japanese congregation here. Because, you know, in Korea, a lot of young people come from other countries. They come to learn Korean or teach English, as well as people there for various reasons. So it was really a comfort for the members to have a place where we could get together as Western members. In pretty much the same way that you get together here as Japanese members. But fellowship is really important, and so it's valuable time to get together and fellowship and support each other, because it's not easy living in a foreign country, no matter how much you live there, still not your mother country. So, you want to hear about Hyunjunim. I was really blessed because all I had was a small little group congregation that had taken care of members, and then Hyunjunim came. Before Hyunjunim came, actually there was no official English church in Korea, and so actually his giving a sermon in English was the first kind of official program for foreigners there. When Hyunjunim started in Korea, he didn't start off with a big bang. And like Injunim started the Love and Life ministry, it was a huge thing. And it was started with a lot of glitz and a lot of publicity and so forth, whereas Hyunjunim came to the Mapo church, which was not a big church, and started teaching there, and started developing his service and everything kind of in a low-key, slow way in a small church. But it grew very rapidly. But some people see that Hyunjunim went to Korea and all of a sudden he has this big church. But actually, what he faced when he went to Korea was not easy. And actually, he had to go a very difficult route when he went to Korea. I think most people don't realize, the kind of climate that he came to Korea in. it was actually a very, very difficult time for our church and our movement there, because, especially because of Kukchinim. Kukchinim really, really loves the Japanese members. He admires them. He appreciates them. And in his heart, it angered him that there were people in Korea wasting money, wasting time, wasting resources, and having the Japanese movement just constantly give money. So it was out of that love for and appreciation for the Japanese members that actually Kukchinim went in, and he stirred things up. You know, businesses that were losing money and people who were wasting money and doing things, he got angry at that. He first spent a little bit of time looking around and examining and so forth, but then he started making changes. How many people here like changes? But if you're the one being, you know, your business being closed down or you're being thrown out, you don't necessarily like the changes. Although it might be good for you. But it was really, Kukchinim originally had come and started making a lot of these changes for the business side, and then Hyungjinim came and it became time to start changing things on the Korean side. What has held together the Korean movement for the past 20 years, other than Japanese money? Do you know what's been holding it together? The Japanese sisters. You know, I visited, I lived out in the countryside, and whether it was the countryside or in Seoul, it was actually the Japanese wives of Korean men that were the ones who were investing so much into each and every local church. I was up in Paju, and it was in our Kumchan church. Who was setting up the church for Sunday? It was the Japanese members. Who was organizing the education for the kids? It was the Japanese members. And this was everywhere. So you have Hyungjinim coming in at a time when actually Kukchinim was beginning to stir the pot, change the atmosphere and so forth. And then Hyungjinim came. Is Hyungjinim a Korean?
American.
He is an American. And there are a lot of people who reminded him that he was an American. Here he was, a young, new church member. You know, he really did not consider himself a church member before 2005. Which I really appreciate his talking about that, because he at some point had to say, okay, I accept this, I understand, I am a unification church members. We know it's difficult even for our own children, you know, to come to that conclusion and so forth. And that Hyungjinim had to go his own way, his own path. His path was martial arts, studying Buddhism, studying world religions. But it wasn't until 2005 that he really started considering himself as a unificationist. So here he is, a young American kid. He was 26 maybe when he went to, 27 when he went to Korea. He was young, inexperienced, hadn't had any real church position or anything like that. And he comes in, and in the meantime, you know, Kukchinim's been doing his thing. So there's a lot of skepticism, a lot of negative feelings sometimes, but also these older ministers who had been doing this for years and years and years. All of a sudden this young man comes in, and yes, he's a true child, but that only gets you so far, because Korea is, as you are aware, is a very Confucian country, where, you know, how old you are. I was born January 19th, 1953. Now, if somebody was born January 20th, 1953, I'm their older brother, and therefore I can take responsibility for that person. But in Korea, you know, Hyungjin started running into a lot of opposition from the leaders and from especially the older church members and so forth. So his way was not easy. It was very